Hello everybody, here I am again. I don't even know really where I was exactly on that last video except for, well, Jordan Peterson. I can't say like he and I are anything alike exactly, except for, well, his thought process and different things that, anytime I'm listening to him and I see like his emotional state, it comes from just an overwhelming amount of knowledge and information and understanding. And then, what can you even do with that? And like the naive Christian response that I received from, the age of 15 through the age of 20 was, like Christ is the answer, which it's not exactly the truth. And Jordan Peterson is no different than God when it comes to a broken heart over the understanding of the sad human condition. All you have to do is have eyes to see, look around you and look at the human race, and well, Christianity didn't solve this problem. Christianity doesn't solve the problem there, does it? It doesn't. Or Judaism or Islam. It doesn't. And religions aren't the solution. And I already had a extremely strong relationship, I don't know how to put it, with God. At the age of 15, I had enough faith in God, the same faith that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had, faith in God. By the time I was 15, I'd already been thrown into the fire. I'd already seen the Son of God come to my rescue countless times. That didn't change anything with mental anguish, call it, or sorrow in the heart, when you realize it doesn't matter how well you've taken care of yourself, how well you understand things. You look around and you see the terrible society around you that exists based off of ignorance and stupidity, and there's no cause for it, really. There's no need for it. And how much understanding can you articulate and verbalize that does any good to an audience of deaf ears? And so, I went through this state of awareness and wreckage. Really, it started at such a young age. Like I told you, I took this major download from God, and I'm telling you, I'm giving it credit to a higher being, the Almighty Creator, before I was even 4. To the degree of, first class, second class, third class, fourth class, lunch break, fifth class, sixth class, seventh class, eighth class, I get to go home, teacher after teacher after teacher, year after year after year, just hated me for just being way more understanding and more knowledgeable, more intelligent than any of my teachers, and they hated me for it. So I had 3 really good teachers that loved me for my potential, and I was never like the teacher's pet, more like the class clown, because I had no respect probably for ignorant people who want to look down upon me for me being twice as smart as them or whatever. So that was my existence, let's say, hardcore, at the age of 7, let's say. And well, by the time I was 15, Well, I was actually working a full-time job. I wasn't going to school. I was working, like my peers, let's call it, were all old enough to be my parent or my grandparent. You know, my coworkers were way older than me, and I learn from an older generation? Yeah, but I still, even then, was like scratching my head of how do these adults, they just don't get it. But I mean, I came to that conclusion at like the age of 4, when I no longer looked at adults for the answers to the questions, and I just went straight to the Almighty Creator, our Heavenly Father. So, with all this knowledge and understanding and not knowing really what to do with it, because I was raised in a Christian environment where at best you can just hope to die and go to heaven, or sit around and wait for a rapture. And, well, the God in me, let's call it that, like my inner soul, my inner understanding, my inner standing is like, I knew that anything I would say, from what I knew with inside, was seen as blasphemy. Like, because everyone believed in Paul as a kid, and no one believed in anything Isaiah had to say, or even what Christ had to say himself, that everything that I said to the American Christian world in which I was raised in, I was looked at upon, even as a kid, as like the Antichrist. Which, actually, to tell you the truth, if anybody on earth ever had that opportunity, the devil sure presented it to me multiple times. Like, I knew there couldn't be an Antichrist before I ever put the math together throughout the scriptures, that's impossible. That anytime Daniel or John in the book of Revelations mentions such a thing, that it's really Jeremiah 8:8. But like, I had already figured this out because I had already turned down that opportunity. See what I mean? Like, the opportunity was mine or not. Like, either opportunity, I pick me. Like, every single detail of every single thing that everything has ever been, specifically throughout history and the scriptures, it points to, well, I had no choice. See what I mean? Like, Jordan Peterson, let's say, was handed a ton of understanding and the capacity to learn and retain massive amounts of knowledge, and to call upon it when he needs it. He's come to the conclusion that, and anybody can judge him for his motivations. I've already heard those things. I want to hear that. We're not here to judge anybody, what his motivations are. He knows for a fact that he was giving that by a higher power, by a higher being, and that it would be wrong to waste it. Maybe some selfish Buddhist monks have come to that conclusion and never came back down off the mountain to share it with everybody else. But anyway, back on track. Like, I came to the same conclusion. Like, it was spoken to me time and time and time again. But because of religions, I thought that the inner script that was written inside me to what I am to be, or what I was to be, that I must have received since before the beginning of time, Like it was written about, like for the last 3,000 years, different prophets have written that I would be here, and that I knew that, even though it contradicted everything that I'd ever been taught. Do you see what I mean? Like I had to roll with, okay, well, a lot of the scriptures say this here and there, but, well, everybody's waiting for a rapture that I know in my heart it can't be true. And then late in life, actually, I come to terms with, wait a minute, the Jews are waiting around for exactly who I am, and I know this, and I'm like, wait a minute, you know? And I have to put this, like I put all this together right at the end of me being 21, like in a the most suicidal year of my life, we'll call it that, probably, call it that. Where all the thing I did all the time was strap my hand to the back of a bull and hope that I died, and did all kinds of crazy things just because I wanted my life to end. And, well, I had a really sick mother to take care of, and I wanted to die in a way that a life insurance policy would take care of her. So sticking a gun in my mouth wasn't really the option. It had to be, like, I got real creative and lived through all kinds of stuff I should have never lived through. Anyway, like every time I listen to Jordan Peterson, like I get flashbacks of, like, almost kind of maybe even worse off, but basically the state of where I was at back then, where no amount of my understanding does any good to getting that into everyone else. Okay? I'm running out of time here, so once again, I'm probably not going to get all this said, but well, I wrapped up college and had a pretty good portfolio to go out into the world and get myself a job as like an art director, or at bare minimum like a graphic designer or something. And but I knew before I kind of sat behind a computer for the rest of my life that I needed to like exhaust like the bucket list, so to speak, and get some things, you know, checked off the old bucket list, because, well, my career once I got into it was going to be full time, you know, and just going to go straight at that. And, well, I'd put together enough money to kind of decide to, you know, go off and do my little adventure and do this and that, and make sure that everything was taken care of for my mother and whatnot. Well, I get this job working as a trail guide at the Grand Canyon. But then when I get out to the south side of Utah, I'm going down to the north rim of the Grand Canyon, these people that own the trail rides, they also own Zion and Bryce Canyon trail rides in the north rim of the Grand Canyon. In the time that I lived in Mormon country, and it was Mormon country, and I learned about Joseph Smith and all this stuff, I came to terms with all of my understanding wasn't given to me by accident, or that, you know, man, I'm gonna have to cut this video off. I know I'm running out of time, and I'm getting ready to go into a whole nother thing. Let me just cut through the brief of it. That's the only time where I really got into seriously reading the Bible, because my understanding was maybe not really suitable for going up in like some kind of a mental chess game against the Mormons, okay? Because they had material that I was unaware of. And I began to question maybe every single thing that I'd ever known, even though that was the wrong thing to do. Nevertheless, I did it. And that was the beginning of me needing to know as much as I could know about every single religion, because I had already determined at this point that Christianity, even with a great relationship with our Heavenly Father, and doing everything I could do to follow Christ and walk the narrow path, I still knew following Christ was the right way to go. And Christ led me to the Almighty. But Christianity was not the truth. I learned this at the end of my 21, right before I turned 22. And my life, literally, from the age of like 14 to the age of 22, was so terrible. To tell you the truth, it started younger than that even, but was so absolutely terrible. And I had gotten to such a suicidal place that every single day of my life seemed to be like a living hell, like a complete living hell that nobody deserved to have, and no one would want to live through. And because my Christian facade of an understanding was, the best thing I can hope for is for a rapture, for Jesus to just rescue me out of here, or maybe I can get lucky and die and go to heaven. Because I didn't want to continue on. Like the mountain in front of me just seemed absolutely too big. I have all the information there, more than anybody else is dealing with, and it was already me against the whole entire world. My 22nd birthday is coming up. I go to my boss. I'm saying, hey man, you know what? This is like, I was working at Bryce Canyon, Utah. Most beautiful place on the face of this earth. They gave me the option to work wherever, whichever, and that's the thing that really, they needed me either at Zion or Bryce. They made that kind of clear. Even though I traveled across the country and I really wanted to work at the Grand Canyon. On my 22nd birthday, June 22nd, after experiencing like at least a 7-year period of complete living hell, the absolute best day of my life, still to this day, was June 22nd, my 22nd birthday. Never had a better day before that or since that. I was just at the Grand Canyon. Like, I asked on my day, I'm like, hey, my birthday's coming up. On my day off, I'm just gonna go down to the Grand Canyon, and borrow a mule kind of thing and have my own day, And the sun was going down at the end of the day. I'm on the north rim of the Grand Canyon. I'm looking off into the west. The sun's going down. There's this weird, I don't know, there's this, I literally thought to myself, I guess here's what I went through that moment and that time. I'm gonna have to make this cut quick. It's just a freak coincidence that my terrible life could have such a good day. Like, my life had been so incredibly terrible that I decided that this should be the last day that I ever live, because it was wonderful and I want to die in a state of bliss. So I basically decided that I was going to run to the edge of the Grand Canyon and just jump off, and either God would just like not let me hit my feet on the ground or give me the wings of an eagle to soar, or I would just die, and I didn't care. I hadn't done anything wrong, and I just wanted to be out of this existence. So I go running to the edge of the cliff, and literally like some 70-80 mile an hour wind like just pushed me and pushed me and pushed me away. I could not even get myself, supernaturally could not kill myself. Like I'm pushing myself to the edge of the cliff, like I'm gonna run and just jump off, and the wind wouldn't let me do it. As soon as I realized this was like a message from God, like I had another download that let me know exactly who I was and exactly everything that I would accomplish and do. And it didn't come from some ink and paper. It didn't come from the scriptures. I just knew it. I downloaded it. And as I stopped pushing, all of a sudden a wind came up from behind me and almost pushed me off the edge. It scared the crap out of me.